Are you a videographer, filmmaker, or photographer who shoots content for companies, but you feel like you're not making enough money and that you should be doing better? Well then, the following video is for you because I'm going to share with you some really good tips on how to make decent money and a good career from filmmaking or photography. So if you want to start doing better for yourself, then watch this video coming up right now. Alright everyone, it's Hugh Sweeney here and I'm back with another video. And I'm going to share with you in this following video some of my best tips that I've learned over the years to sort of make a better career and make more money and be a little bit more professional when it comes to shooting videos and photography as well. So starting out at the very first one, right, here we go, top 10 tips coming up right now. The first thing I would say is, like any skill set, like any trade, get good. It's as simple as that. Get as good as you possibly can. The better you are, the more people will want you. Now, assuming that you can deliver on time and that you're fairly professional and that you're easy to work with, there's a few little boxes that have to be checked there. But the main thing is to be good. Get good at your art. Get a good product. It's like, Anthony, if you're a carpenter, are you a good carpenter? If you're a painter who paints houses, are you good? Will you do a really good job? The better you are, the more likely you are to get work. So that's the first tip. You got to get good. But I will say that being good is not just all about your skill set. It's also going to lead me on to tip number 2, invest in good equipment. Okay. Now there's an old rumor that, people will say, you'll see different YouTube channels and they'll say the camera isn't important. It's what's behind the camera. That'll get you so far, and indeed a certain amount is true. Like a good videographer with a Canon EOS R is probably going to do nicer work than a very average photographer with a Canon C500. But at the same time, you do need good gear, and it's not just about the camera as well, it's the lenses. Have you got a nice few lenses? Now you don't need many lenses. Don't waste your time with all these super expensive primes. Just some really decent lenses that will get you through the range so that you can get the shots that clients might want, whether it's a super wide shot right through to a telephoto shot. And as well as that, of course, have you got a decent microphone? Those are the devices that will capture the actual content, but then you have to look at other things that go with it as well, like lights, things that will assist you with camera movements, from tripods to gimbals, and even like drones and stuff. So the better the gear you have, the more likely you're going to be able to get the shots you want. And I've seen certain YouTubers like Matty from Travel Field saying that, you shouldn't get a loan, you should save up your money and buy gear as you go. But I actually disagree with that. I think you should actually get a loan out and just get the gear you need at the start, and at least then you have good gear. You can start learning it, and if you get hired with a company, you're not going to have this sort of inferiority complex that you don't have enough equipment. You're going to arrive with nice equipment, and it doesn't cost that much to get set up in video. 10,000 euros if you got a loan for that, which you could pay off over a couple of years. That will get you nice stuff. You get some really good equipment out of that, and you can build it up then as you go along. Now, it doesn't have to be the best of the best. You can get a tripod for 200 euros. You don't need the most expensive gimbal either. You can buy a gimbal for about 500 euros, and you can get a drone, a Mavic or something that'll be 1,200-1,300 euros or dollars, whatever your currency is. So you don't need to spend huge amounts of money, but it's important to have, the options there to get different types of shots if possible. So now let's assume you're a good videographer and you've got good equipment. What's the next most important thing? Pricing. Tip number 3, price properly. So you need to price to what you want to earn. I mean, do you want to earn 20,000 a year? Do you want to earn 40? Do you want to earn 60? Do you want to try and break 100,000 a year? So you'll have to figure out how much you're going to work and what you're going to have to charge to get that. So what I suggest doing is calculate it out for, we'll say, 10 months of the year. And you probably say to me, oh, well, I want to work 12 months. Well, you're going to have 2 weeks off at Christmas. You're probably going to have 2 weeks off during the summer. That's 1 month gone. And then you're going to have another month where you're going to miss days here and there as well. So realistically, you only properly work for 10 months of the year, okay? Then you have to figure out, right, I'm shooting and I'm editing. Or are you just shooting and you're giving the edits to someone else? What I recommend doing is having a rate for shooting. Charge per day for shooting, and then perhaps charge per half day or per hour for editing. So when it comes to doing a job, just think of what time you're going to spend shooting it and what time you're going to spend editing it. Now with shooting, I recommend charging per day. You could do half day, but I wouldn't recommend doing any less than that. Don't charge for an hour or two. Some people sometimes ring me up and they say, we need you for 2 hours. There's no such thing as 2 hours because it takes time to get there, it takes time to come home, and it also takes time to pack the gear, unpack the gear and all that. So there's nothing smaller than a half a day. And I'm even reluctant to do stuff for half days. Sometimes companies say, oh, we'll go for half a day then, but they really want to squeeze out a full day out of you. So be very careful there. Always try and push them to a full day, especially if it's a new client that you're unfamiliar with. I have some people I do work for that, I know exactly what they want. They might just want something really small. They might only need me for an hour or something. So I might kind of cut a bit of slack there, but in most cases, try and aim for at least a half a day or a full day if you can. So you have your days shooting and then you have your edit time as well. And normally with editing, you sort of have to figure out what type of edit it is. Is it something that's going to be very simple, like just a piece to camera with some basic B-roll? Or is it going to be, a lot of shots and a lot of planning and stuff? And is it going to have some transitions in there, maybe some motion graphics? So I suggest calculating what time you think it's going to take to edit. Maybe add a little bit on because it always seems to take longer. So the next tip I would offer you, tip number 4, would be to deliver your content on time as soon as you can. It's been one of my weak areas, just the type of person I am. If people aren't looking for things, I tend to take a little bit longer. There's an old saying goes that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and sometimes you might have a client that's booked in way before another client, but somebody else might be a little bit more demanding and they might want theirs edit done sooner, so you end up not doing the job that you shot before it and they're wondering what's going on. So my advice would be to always try and deliver on time and look after your clients as well. Just always, keep the contact up, keep the connection up, and never ever avoid talking to them because you're behind with the edits. Just let them know exactly what's going on. Communication is so important. So that's another really important tip. Look after the clients, and especially look after the ones that look after you. Repeat clients and good clients. Always be there for them no matter what. So I got a really good tip off a client of mine years ago, a very good businessman, and he told me, he said, you know what, Hugh, he said, you spend too long on these edits. If you just spent less time, don't put so much work into them, let them go a little bit earlier and deliver it quicker. He said, you'll probably have happier clients. If the quality is okay to a certain level, it doesn't have to be amazing. So very often clients will be happier with something that's delivered quicker than something that's really amazing that takes much longer. So be mindful of that and try and deliver on time. So tip number 5, kind of like tip number 1, I would say develop your skill set and have as broad a skill set as possible. And what that means is that you can do as much work yourself, that you're not having to sub out parts of your job to other creators. That can mean that you can just really maximize the job then. When somebody comes to me and they want a video done, I actually don't need to call anyone. I don't need to get a drone guy because I can do my own drone shots. I don't need to get a voiceover person because I can do my own voiceovers. And when it comes to voiceovers, I'll always give people the option of choosing whatever professional voiceover artist they want. But what I'll do first is I'll do a rough voiceover myself just to kind of give the video a bit of structure. And in so many cases, people says, you know what, your voice is fine, we're going to use you. So I usually just price in a little bit for voiceover as well. And that way I'm getting another little bit of money. And the same with motion graphics, do they want an intro? Do they want their logo animated? Now I've got years of experience in Adobe Illustrator. I'm using Illustrator since the late 90s and Photoshop as well. I've got over 20 years experience in those platforms. That's how long I'm using them. So if somebody comes to me and they have a logo and they don't have the proper version of the logo, that they've got a business card, I can scan it, take a photograph of it, redraw it in Illustrator into vector art, and I can animate it in After Effects, do some motion graphics, do some little sort of finessing to the video that really polishes it and makes it look really good. So it's a nice skill set to have. And so when you're doing the full project, then you're not actually paying any other creators. The more you can do yourself, the more you can make out of the job. Tip number 6, treat your business like you would a day job. Now this is something I see so many videographers and photographers get wrong. So they work for themselves, they don't have a boss, they don't have anyone breathing down their neck. If they're not busy and if they don't have much work on, they tend to just go easy. And I've often been walking down my city and I'll see one of my videographer friends and they're sitting outside a cafe and I'm like, hey buddy, how's it going? And they're like, oh great. And I'm saying, you're not working today? And they're, no, I have a job on next week, but I'm I'm just going easy today, you know. Like, that's fair enough. If that's the way you want to live your life, that's fine. But I think it's really good to get a bit of structure in there. Get up in the morning, get your exercise, get your breakfast, and then just start work. And even if you don't have much work on, if you just start doing stuff anyway, just get back to all your emails, do your accounts, do everything, keep on top of stuff, and treat it like a day job. Now, it's not easy always for us guys because we work alone. And as I said, you don't have the pressure of a boss keeping you in place or a supervisor. You just have to do it on your own accord. And I have struggled with this myself, but I find that if I get up in the morning and I do a good day, that I feel so much better about myself. So that's a very good tip, is to treat it like a job. Just go and work your hours. So tip number 7 today would be to get your work out there and get your showcase out there. Now, that doesn't mean do a really cool, show reel or something, but just have your portfolio of work accessible for people who want to view it and people who want to Google you. Showcase your work and showcase it well via your website, via your social media and your YouTube, Vimeo, whatever. Just get your work up there in a nice format. I personally use Vimeo. I've got not all, I've got a selected amount of my commercial work there, so that if people look for me or in my emails, they just go to my Vimeo and they'll see all my work jobs and stuff like that. And if they go to my website, I've got my recent work up there as well. I don't have the best website in the world or the best portfolio of work in the world, but there's some nice commercial stuff there and there's a variation of stuff, so people see that I'm active and see that I'm outputting content. And it's nice to have recent stuff as well. I see some of these videographers and you go to their website and they've got a video they did 3 years ago up on their website. It doesn't look very good. Have recent work up, keep chipping away, don't neglect it, and people will see that you're creating content. Now, it's good to do it with your own stuff as well, be it, uploading videos to YouTube or Facebook and just constantly, uploading things that you've done. And recently I uploaded a little video of my local city and somebody saw it on Facebook and they actually hired me because of that. I was actually doing a few test shots with one of my fairly new lenses there, and I just created something simple. It wasn't my best work and I got hired because of that. I got someone rang me up and they said, we've a company, we do this, and we saw that thing on Facebook and we'd like you to do something like that for us. And I did it, and I got hired for a full day's work and a full day of editing. So they saw that and then they hired me from that. So tip number 8 today would be to be confident, and be confident with new clients or existing clients. Confidence is very, very important. If you're not confident, they'll see through that and they'll begin to doubt your skill set and doubt your work, and they mightn't hire you. Now, it's very difficult to be confident unless you can be confident over your past experience. So you will have to sort of work on your confidence over the years. Now, I'm one of these people, I'm a huge self-doubter, and I always assume that the next guy is better than me. And in a way, that's kind of helped me a little bit to push harder and try and be better. So in the early days, I used to be terrified of meeting clients, especially when I was starting out. I hadn't that much experience and I hadn't that much equipment. But now I know that when I arrive, I've got nice equipment and I can see the customer there knowing that I mean business, and I'm looking confident with my equipment and I'm telling people what to do. And sometimes I can be a little bit overconfident, I can be a little bit cocky, and I'll say, right, you go there. But at the same time, you get away with that because they know that you've their best interests at heart, okay? So I think confidence is very important, and do work on it, but you'll only get confidence from delivering, okay? So you need to start building that up. The more jobs you deliver, the more people that you see are happy with your work, the more confident you'll get. So there you go. Tip number 9 would be to work for good companies that make money. Now, there's a kind of a thing in this industry of ours where people like to do music videos and they like to do sort of arty stuff and funky short films and stuff, and that's all well and good, but a lot of these people don't really want to pay much money, especially in videos. I've never actually seen anyone offer me anything decent in terms of videos. I had like a wedding band ring me up and they wanted to do a video, and I told them, well, it's going to take a few days, whatever. I think I gave them a rough price of about 2,000 euros, and they said to me, oh God, no, that's way out of their league. They're not going to spend anywhere near that kind of money on their video. And I said, well, how much do you want to pay? And they said, 200. So, I mean, what kind of video can you do for 200? That's absolutely ridiculous. So I said to them, well, what do you charge for a wedding? And they said 2,000. So they weren't willing to spend what they get on a wedding on their video. So don't work with people like that. Work with people that want a good video and value your services as a videographer or a photographer, okay? Now, that might be, you know, big corporations that might make a lot of money, and a couple of thousand for a video is really only a drop in the ocean. But don't be fooled into thinking that wealthy companies are going to splash the cash as well. Some of them are very cost conscious and very tight with their money. And I also know people who have smaller, more humble businesses, but they really value videographers and photographers' content, and they're actually willing to pay. So just be careful there. And I think it's good as well to mix the rough with the smooth. I love doing stuff for, you know, maybe medical companies, bigger companies, and then also it's nice to do stuff for smaller companies like your corner cafe and stuff like that. I think it's nice to not turn away people. But if you are doing a lot of sort of smaller jobs where you're not getting paid that much per video, it might be an idea to consider getting, you know, a couple of videos that are worth a few thousand and get a few of them booked in. And then you can afford to be doing the smaller jobs in between. Maybe I'm overusing the phrase, but mixing the rough with the smooth is always good. So decent clients that are respectful of your services and that are willing to pay for good content. That's what you want to aim for. So to wrap things up, and tip number 10, is it, I'm on tip number 10 or 11? I think I've kind of lost well, at least I can say I've done 10 tips at least. But the last tip I'm going to give you today is to get a deposit for your work, okay? It's very, very important. Get a deposit for a job that comes in. If you don't have a deposit, you have nothing coming in, okay? Some people don't like to get deposits because they're afraid to ask the client. They feel it's cheeky and all that. But that is a really big mistake. Always be striving for deposits for jobs you have. Now, I think it's a good idea to get stage payments. Get a deposit up first, and then when you finish shooting the job, get another stage payment. And then when you finish the edit, get the final payment. So what I recommend doing is get like 30% up front, and then another 30% when you've finished the shoot, and then you're left with 40%, which is outstanding, which they can pay when they're happy with the edit. So you've got money up front. You know, you're going to be waiting on full payment from other jobs anyway, but at least you have these deposits coming in, which will sort of even things out. So you're getting paid a little bit in advance while you're waiting for the final payments from other jobs. So get a deposit. And if a company says, well, look, a deposit is against our policy, we don't pay deposits here, you'll get paid when it's done. Well, then just say, you know what? That's not how I work. This is my policy. I know that I need to get money up front to make my business functional, so get a deposit. And if they're slow paying with the deposit, chances are they could be slow paying with the final amount. So money is everything. That's what we're all in it for. We need to get paid for our work so we can pay our rent, put food on the table for our families, and look after our equipment and stuff. So that's about it from the tips today. I really hope you enjoyed it. Those tips are sort of my business ethic, and there's probably a few more little details as well, which I will go into in a future live video. So keep an eye out for other videos coming up on that. And if you have any questions, I usually try and get back to everyone in the comments below. So just type them in there and I'll respond to you. If you do like the video, it would mean a lot to just give it a thumbs up and get it into the YouTube algorithm there as well. A thumbs up and a comment. Keep it nice and active. And you can also subscribe to the channel as well if you like what I do. Have a look at the other videos that I've done there so far. You might see something that you've liked, and also you can go further afield and go onto my Facebook and my Instagram. You'll find me on there and check me out and get involved in the conversation. So that's all from today from myself, Hugh Sweeney, filmmaker. Until the next video, it's over and out, and I'll see you guys. Take care.